Uh, 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 it's over. Excuse my hair. The season is technically over for BG football. After what we witnessed last weekend in Ypsilanti. Where do we go from here? Where do we go? And who do we blame? Who do we blame out of this situation? We'll talk about it. We'll also recap week 11 in the college football playoffs, college football, and look at the new college football playoff rankings as week 2 of their rankings have come out. Some movement as well. But there's some bright side to the My Football Magic, of course, because the Lions getting a huge win in the nation's capital. If it wasn't for Jane Daniels being hurt, I think the game would have been a little bit closer. And the 1-6 Jets, the 1-7 Jets, are now 2-7 after the win against the Browns. It just doesn't get easier for the Browns. It just doesn't get easier. And Stefanski still got his job. Oh, man. We'll recap Week 10 in the National Football League and preview Week 11 and look at the betting slips. The Jackets can't find a way. They just can't. They seem to find a way to lose. Lose last night. Lose on Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada. Lose last night on Prime. And now they head up to the Great Northwest to see my good friend Everett Fitzhugh and the Seattle Kraken tonight, 10 o'clock drop. In about an hour and change to go. We'll see what it looks like tonight before they come back home to play Edmonton. And the Walleye are selling off their team early this year. We'll talk about that. Lots to get into tonight. It's cold. The first snow just happened. The Christmas lights are going up soon. They were down here in the office. But the holiday season is upon us. And it's time for all Andy Alfred. And with that, I say, I love you guys. And welcome in to another edition of All Andy Alfred tonight right here on your exclusive home for me, and that is with the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for tuning into the show tonight to see what's happening in the sports world as well as what's happening in my everyday life. You can always be a part of the show by following us on Twitter. It is at AllAndyAlfred. It is at AllAndyAlfred, as well as Facebook.com/AllAndyAlfred. And welcome to you tonight on this, the 11th day of November, 2025. Happy Veterans Day to all of you, and of course, a special thank you to all those who have served, who are serving, and who are planning to serve this great country that is the United States of America. Thank you to all those that we have lost and their families for letting them, putting on the brave sacrifice that is to be an American patriot and being with the U.S. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force, Space Force. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you for doing what you do for me to be able to do what I do here on this podcast and to be able to talk sports and talk about what's happening in my life. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all our military and all our veterans and everybody, even the families. Thank you. I want to give a special shout out to my friend Juliana, my friend Philip, and my good friend Helen, who are all in the military. And thank you for your excellent service and everything you do for our country. So, Welcome into All Andy Alfred tonight. Oh, this is going to be a show. Lots to get into tonight, of course. We're going to talk about the walleye and the big sell-off that has been happening today. I was going to leave with that, but I want to get my thoughts on Bowling Green. We'll get to that as well. We'll also talk about the Jackets and their woes on this Western Canadian road trip. They have not won a game in the Western Canadian road trip. They've gotten points, but they have not gotten any wins out of it. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll dive into the NFL. The Lions, a huge win, as well as the Browns and the woes that the Browns have. We'll get into all that. And we'll dive into some pro wrestling as well on the program tonight. But I want to begin with what's happening in Wood County. I want to begin with what we witnessed on Saturday. Of course, Bowling Green football headed up the road 45 minutes away from campus to Ypsilanti, Michigan to take on the Eastern Michigan Eagles in the factory. And this was a huge game for Bowling Green. If you look at this game, Bowling Green needed this game. Absolutely needed this game to stay in contention for a bowl bid and to stay in the hunt. And yet again, they seem again to hurt me. This team has hurt me this year. Has made me so frustrated. The amount of what we saw at the beginning of this season, what the greatness that we had in the running game and in the passing game and the defense standing up, they basically have checked out since the Toledo game. 3-game losing streak going into the game on Saturday at Eastern Michigan University. I was going to go. I wanted to go to the game because I want to witness it. I wanted to go to the factory. I wanted to see what this stadium looked like. First of all, I got a bug to pick with Eastern Michigan. First of all, $35 for general admission ticket to see these two teams. It should be $35 for a family of 4, or hell, a group of 8 of us for $35. What the amount of action on the field is, and to look at the stadium and see it completely, I would say 60 to 75% empty, that tells you something. Maybe think about lowering the ticket prices, especially when it gets to this time of year when it's cold and it's miserable out there. You want to get the crowd into it on a Saturday afternoon when you clearly have no other team. Michigan wasn't playing. Michigan State wasn't playing. You want to get the crowd to come in to watch? This would have been a good time to do it. At $35 for general admission, I was absolutely floored because of that. I was floored by that. Then we get to the game. And let me talk about this. The lack of discipline that this team has had since even before the Toledo game, with all the penalties that they have drawn all season, came to a head. I thought the Central Michigan game was bad. This was worse. This was absolutely worse. And the injury bug absolutely killed us this year. No Pine, no Anderson, no May. We basically get this kid off of campus. Hunter Najim, the quarterback for this team. And his QBR was better than all 3 of the quarterbacks I just mentioned. 85.7% QBR rating. Now you say to yourself, do you think that he would have a good He had one touchdown and one interception. He was 11 for 15 in this game. 11 for 15. And I now will just say this. We now know who the number one running back is with this program going forward, hopefully, if he stays with Bowling Green. And a lot of these guys are probably going to jump in the portal. We all know this. But Austin Dente, 21 carries. He had a breakout game. 21 carries for 113 yards and 2 TDs. 2 TDs in the game. Johnson had the other catch for 4 catches for 36 yards with 1 TD. But it goes back to this. Penalties. Penalties yet again. And the fact that the defense doesn't tackle on the play. I will give it to you right now. Right now, the play. What got me really pissed off. Really, really pissed off. Bowling Green in the game, taking the lead at halftime, 14-10. Okay? We get the, punt, go back and forth. 5 minutes and 57 seconds to go. Bowling Green had Eastern Michigan on a 4th and go after the penalty. After the penalty of a false start, they still go for it. And what happens? Nick Devereaux gets the pass from Noah Kim. Twist. Right into the playoff. Right into the bowl bid. And then the dagger. Dante McMillan running it for 8 yards in the 4th quarter. Bowling Green down by 10. The heart was coming out. Bowling Green tried their best. Johnson gets the catch from Hunter Nation. It's 24-21. Then the dagger and the killer, Rudy Kessinger, puts the icing on the cake. And the final from Ypsilanti. Bowling Green 21. Eastern Michigan 27. The season is done. It's worth it for the seniors to finish out what they got. But this season is done. There will be no postseason. There will be no bowl bid. There will be no bowl game for Bowling Green this year. And it will be the first time that Bowling Green will miss a bowl game in 4 years. You got to go back to the 2020 season. The streak that we had with bowl games, the Little Caesars, I forget what the Quick Lane Bowl. Last year, the Ventura Bowl, and now this year, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I've heard people and the rumors of talking about what, that Eddie has lost the team. I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. But the fact that he comes into this program, he came into this program late in the season last year, right after, recruiting was all done. And then doesn't get his full staff until we get into the summer, and then he finally gets the players to come in, and it's a ragtag bunch that he hopes would gel, and they don't gel. And look what we've got. We've got a football team that's 3-7. 3-7. Possibility going 5-7 to end the season. I know for a fact that next week when we play Akron, we're probably going to be the CBS game because ESPN ain't going to carry us. ESPN ain't going to carry us. I'm just telling you that right now. ESPN ain't carrying us. It'll be on CBS Sports because it's Bowling Green and Akron, the final home game this year at Dwight Perry Stadium on a I believe it's a Wednesday night. If I'm not mistaken, it's Wednesday or Tuesday night. Tuesday night, the 18th. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock kick. 3 games in the MAC. UMass, Ohio, Western and Northern, and Akron and Bowling Green. And then it's Wednesday's games are Miami of Ohio and Buffalo and Central Michigan, Kent State. And then you got Saturday, a slate 2 o'clock kick against Toledo hosting Ball State, the final home game of the season at the Glass Bowl. So again, I say it again. The season is done. Where do we go from here? Do we go to the portal? Do we go to recruiting? I don't know. I just don't know. I would like to see what we've got the last 2 games to make an honest decision on what next season looks like. But this season is done. I'm not blaming Eddie, and I'm not blaming the failure of the offensive coordinator who's already been let go. I'm not blaming any of the AD. I'm not blaming any of the situation. The injury bug caught us. We weren't prepared. And we just got to deal with it. We honestly got to deal with it. So we'll see what happens. Of course, Bowling Green not playing this week. We got Maction games happening as we speak, as we're on the air tonight. And we'll have games tomorrow and over the weekend. And then next week on the 18th, no podcast. We usually do our podcast on Tuesday night. We will do it on Wednesday night to recap the final home game for Bowling Green, because I will be at the attendance for that football game on Tuesday the 18th. I just don't understand. I just don't. I am just so frustrated. So unbelievably frustrated with this game. It didn't ruin my college football set. And here's the weird thing. A 1 o'clock kick. This game was on ESPN Plus. I understand 1 o'clock kick. But it went up against the Ohio State Purdue game. I told you guys that, Ohio State could be a pull upset, but I was clearly wrong. Ohio State was the better team. But I just felt it was weird to have both games on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. It was just weird. Weird for me. Absolutely weird. But I digress. Bowling Green. And to recap the stats really quickly, like I said, we just went over the Bowling Green stats. For the team stats, and that's why I talked about the penalty situation, Bowling Green, 9 penalties for 103 yards. I repeat that again, 9 penalties for 103 yards. Eastern Michigan had 7 penalties for 65 yards. Bowling Green had 259 total yards of offense, 130 on the ground, 129 through the air. Eastern Michigan had 385, 210 through the air, 175 on the ground. Bowling Green in third down efficiency was 4 for 11. Eastern was 1 for 2, including that big touchdown that put us behind the 8 ball. So again, Eastern Michigan with the win, they improved to 3-7. With Bowling Green's loss, they're now 3-7. So it was a 3-7 matchup. Even though Eastern's not going to make a bowl game, they win. Unbelievable. And Bowling Green was favored by 2.5 to start the game. 2.5. at the factory. 11,000. Only 11,889. Gotta lower those ticket prices. Other games last week in the Mid-American Conference. UMass gets destroyed by Akron, 44-10. Ohio gets a huge win over Miami of Ohio, 24-20. Wednesday, I got a chance to go to the University of Toledo game against NIU. Toledo absolutely pounded and destroyed NIU 42-3. It was like over at halftime. I walked out at halftime. It was over. I saw everybody. I got my picture taken with Jim Tressel. I will post that picture on our Facebook and Twitter account. I have that to post for you guys. The other game, Ball State winners 17-13 over Kent State. Games tonight, of course, as we're on the air, as we're hitting halftime for most of these games. Akron is up on Kent State 17-14. That's a big lead right now. That's for the wagon wheel tonight at half. And Ohio up 7-3 on Western Michigan, just ready to hit the 2-minute timeout in the game. Of course, other games this week. Toledo will play Miami of Ohio this week in Week 12 of college football in Maction. Toledo 3.5-point favorite. Both teams 5-4. The winner of this game is bowl eligible. Toledo 3.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Miami of Ohio though to beat Toledo in this game. I think Miami of Ohio, coming off the loss last week against Ohio, they can't lose another big game. And I'll get to why here in just a second with the standings. But Miami of Ohio has to win this game. Same with Toledo. Toledo has to win out to possibly get into the MAC championship with help. So we'll see what happens with that. Buffalo and Central Michigan, both teams 5-4. 7:00 kick on CBS Sports Network. Central Michigan a 1.5-point favorite. I have Central Michigan winning this football game over Buffalo. And then NIU 2-7 will take on UMass at UMass. 7:00 kick. NIU 10.5-point favorite. I'm going to take NIU. UMass is the only college program left that does not have a win this season. And then the final Mid-American Conference game, Eastern Michigan at Ball State. Noon kick on Saturday. Eastern Michigan 2.5-point favorites in the game. I'm going to take Eastern Michigan to beat Ball State in that game. And Michael Regai on the call for that game this coming week on Saturday. So there is that. Of course, last week in college football was a couple big upsets. Of course, Ohio State pounding Purdue 34-10. You had Indiana coming from behind and winning at Penn State on what I believe was probably the best catch of the season and the worst announcing of the season. I love Gus Johnson. Don't get me wrong. I love Gus. But that call was probably the worst call I've ever heard in my entire life. It sounded like one of my cats sitting in the swimming pool. It was terrible. Indiana winner 27-24 over Penn State. Mississippi State falls to the 5th-ranked Georgia 41-21. I thought that that could have been an upset there. Texas Tech, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech, beats BYU 29-7 in the 7-8 matchup right there. Ole Miss shellacked the Citadel 49-0. Texas A&M continues their winning ways with a 38-17 win over Missouri. Oregon, a huge win, 18-16 in Kinetic Field in Iowa. You have Miami, a big 38-10 win over Syracuse. Vanderbilt finds a way in overtime to beat Auburn 45-38. Wisconsin, a huge upsetting win over 23rd ranked Washington 13-10. Wake Forest, a 16-9 win over Virginia, who was 14th ranked in the country. Virginia falling to Wake Forest. Cal beats Louisville in overtime 29-26. That was an upset. That was a true upset. And, of course, the nightcap, Alabama, the Tide, continued to roll Tide as they beat up on LSU, who fired Brian Kelly. Alabama, a 20-9 win over LSU. And, of course, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Irish taking on the midshipmen of Navy. And they pounded out the Navy in the snow in South Bend on the anniversary of Rudy Rudiger coming into the football game against Georgia Tech. Love it. A big 49-10 win over the Naval Academy. Of course, USC was a winner over Northwestern, 38-17 in that 17 in that game. And then the other Big Ten, of course, Rutgers a 35-20 win over Maryland, and Nebraska beats up on UCLA 28-21. So the college football playoff rankings are out tonight. That's why we do these podcasts late tonight, because we want to get the ranking out, because I love the college football game. And of course, no change in the top three. Ohio State number 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3. I will put it to this again. I think Indiana should be the number 1 team in the country. They are at 10-0 right now. They went to Oregon. They beat the Ducks in Oregon in a hostile environment. I understand staying at 2. If they would have pounded Penn State and just absolutely beat the shit out of them, I think they would have been the number 1 team in the country this week. I really would. And were they struggling against Penn State? I still, at number 2, I will say that, because Indiana and Texas A&M are the 2 complete football teams right now. 2 complete football teams. And I understand I have a lot of people, of course, our good friend Logan Carr, who does the show, comes on our show. I told him, I said I felt like Ohio State should not be number 1 ranked, and it's because of their strength of schedule and their scheduling and everything like that. And he basically says, why do you think that they should be 3, blah, 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 blah. And I told him about that. It's like, you got to play what you got to play. I just disagree with it. I really do. I really disagree with it. But going at the rest of the rankings, Alabama to 4, Georgia State's at 5, Texas Tech rolls up to 2 spots to 6, Ole Miss falls down 1 to 7, Oregon up 1 to 8, Notre Dame now in the top 10 at 9, Texas moves up 1 at 10, Oklahoma moves up 1 to 11, BYU falls 5 spots to 12, Utah State's the same at 13, Vanderbilt moves up 2 spots to 14, Miami, Florida moves up 3 spots to 15, Georgia Tech move up 1 spot to 16, USC moves up 2 spots to 17, and USC is 7-2. You have a slew of 7-2, 9-1 teams in a mixture. Michigan is at 18. They move up 3 spots. Virginia falls 5 spots to 19. Louisville falls 5 spots to 20. Iowa falls 1 spot to 21. Pitt moves up 2 spots to 22nd. Tennessee to 23rd. They move up 2 spots. And the 2 teams that now come into the college football playoff rankings, South Florida, the Brahman Bulls out of the American Conference at 7-2 go to 24, and Cincinnati in the Big 12, who are 7-2, go into the playoff rankings. Missouri and Washington have been kicked out of the college football playoff rankings. So there is the college football playoff rankings. If you look at it playoff wise, it would be Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and then you would have Texas Tech as the 4 teams. That could be that would be the playoff teams. With Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe Utah, and then of course you would have to have a Power 5. So South Florida would probably be the team to make it into that. So there's that, of course, for you. But a huge slate of games this week for Week 12 in college football. A huge slate. And I'm talking, this is probably one of the best slates. I'm hoping, I know it's going to be warm here in the Midwest. It's going to be near 60 today. The temperature right now outside, it's a balmy 32 right now with snow on the ground. This slate's going to be really good. 2 big games to start off on Friday. And we're going to go over the card and go over our picks for this week. Clemson travels to Louisville Friday night, 7:30 ESPN. Louisville, 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Cards to bounce back and win over Clemson. And then you have row the boat, Minnesota. The Golden Gophers heading out to Eugene to take on the 8th-ranked Oregon Ducks. Oregon, 25.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Oregon in that game, plain and simple. You get into the slate, the afternoon slate on Saturday. Noon, Big Ten Network. I'm going to go over the big top 25 as well as the other Big Ten games as well. So this is going to be a mix. Wisconsin in Indiana to take on the Hoosiers. Indiana, 29.5-point favorite. You're going to take the Hoosiers, plain and simple. Noon kick on ESPN. South Carolina, the Gamecocks, 3-6, will take on Texas A&M in the 12th man. Texas A&M, 18.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Aggies of Texas A&M in that game. Noon kick at Wrigley Field, 11 a.m. kick as Northwestern win the game. Will host the University of Michigan. Michigan 7-2, 18th ranked in the playoffs. Michigan 12.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Big Blue in this game. I have to. I think Northwestern could surprise a little bit if they keep it close at halftime, but I think Michigan's going to win this game. Of course, one of the top 25 teams that is on the bubble, it's a non-Power 5. South Florida, 7-2, will go to the Naval Academy to take on the Navy team. And that Navy team is very, very good. What I watched on Saturday against Notre Dame, even in the conditions and even with what they've got, I think USF is 10.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Naval Academy to beat USF in that game. I really do. I think they're going to beat them. Arizona travels to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, 6.5-point favorite. New kick on FS1. I'm going to take the Bobcats of Cincinnati. And then you get into the 3:30 slates. You have Oklahoma, 11th ranked in the country, travels down to Bama to take on the Roll Tide. Bama, Roll Tide, Crimson Tide. Bama, 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Bama Tide on that one. Central Florida, 4-5, will take on 6th ranked Texas Tech. Texas Tech, 23.5-point favorite. 3:30 kick on Fox. I'm going to take the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. North Carolina State goes down to Miami to take on the Hurricanes. Hurricanes, 7-2, 14.5-point favorite. I am going to take the Miami Hurricanes in that game. 16th ranked Georgia Tech. They got to keep winning to keep into the ACC tournament. Georgia Tech, 8-1, takes on a Boston College team that is just trying to figure themselves out. They're 1-9. Georgia Tech, 16.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Georgia Tech in that game. 3:30 kick on Big Ten Network sees the 21st ranked Iowa Hawkeyes traveling out to the Coliseum to take on the USC Trojans. USC 6.5-point favorites. I have USC in this game winning this game over the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I think Iowa will be out of the Big Ten playoff and out of the college football playoffs with this loss. 19th ranked Virginia, 8-2 overall, head down to Chapel Hill to take on the Duke Blue Devils. Duke 5.5-point favorites. I think Virginia gets back on the winning page. I think they win this game. I don't think I would take Virginia plus the 5.5 right now. That's where I would take it for there. 4:15 sees New Mexico State 3-6 traveling down to Knoxville to see the Tennessee Volunteers, who are 6-3. Tennessee 41.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Volunteers in that one. And then you get into the night games. Of course, Florida taking on 7th ranked Ole Miss. Ole Miss 15.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Ole Miss to beat Florida there. Utah 13th ranked in the country travels to Baylor. 7 o'clock kick on ESPN2. I'm going to take Utah to beat Baylor there. The game on ABC will be 10th ranked Texas heading into Georgia to take on the Bulldogs in Athens. Bulldogs are 6.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Kirby and his team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas wants to come out and play. I would not be surprised. So I think Georgia close in this game. And then at 10:15 out in Utah will be the BYU Cougars, 12th ranked in the country, taking on the Horned Frogs at TCU. BYU 4.5-point favorites. I'm going to take BYU in that game. And then, of course, 2 games of note. Noon kick. Game day will be in Pittsburgh this week, outside of where the Steelers play, Assurance Stadium, as the 22nd ranked Pitt Panthers take on the 9th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Irish 11.5-point favorites, both teams 7-2. I like the quarterback from Pitt. He is a kid from Clay High School. I think he's fantastic. I like this kid. but it's the Irish. It's Marcus Freeman. It's Jeremiah Love. The conditions are going to be comfortable. Give me the Irish. Give me the Irish. I think they're going to win out. I think they're going to the playoffs. And in my opinion, and I'm not being a homer because, I'm a Catholic and I love Notre Dame. I think there's a good possibility that Notre Dame can get back into the championship game at the college football playoff. I think they can. And then at 7:30, NBC, UCLA, 3-6 overall, takes on Ohio State at the Shoe. Ohio State 32.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Ohio State. The other Big Ten games, by the way, in the weekend slate, it will be Penn State at Michigan State, 3:30 kick on CBS. Penn State 7.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Michigan State to beat Penn State. And that's surprising that this game isn't the last game of the year because it's always been Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State. I've always remembered that game. Maryland is at Illinois, the Fighting Illini. Illini 14.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Illini to beat Maryland. And then Purdue, 2-8 goes out to Washington to take on the Huskies. Huskies 16.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Washington in the game. So there is the Big Ten slate. That is the top 25 in the Mid-American Conference slate. Of course, Bowling Green not in action. They will be in action this upcoming Tuesday. 7 o'clock kick at Deutsche Perry Stadium, the final home game of the season on midweek action. We don't know yet where the TV is going to be at. I'm thinking it's going to be CBS Sports Network. We do know that Toledo's final home game will be at the Glass Bowl next Saturday, 2 o'clock kick against Ball State. We do know that because it's on ESPN Plus, but we don't know. We don't know where the Bowling Green game will be. It will be CBS, will be ESPNU, because it will certainly not be on ESPN2. It will certainly not be on the big network. I'm just going to put it there. I mean, if they do put him on there, it's probably because of Eddie George and Pudge the Cat. I'm just going to say that. So that is all the college football talk tonight as you are watching and listening to All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you for tuning into the show tonight. Delicious gin. And now let's dive into the National Football League and let's talk about the local teams. Of course, I want to start first and foremost with the disappointments, and that is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns. We're the Cleveland Browns. And we're the Cleveland Browns. I have the question has always been asked. Could Ohio State beat the Cleveland Browns? Surely with this team, Cleveland, it'd be over at halftime. It'd be over at halftime. How bad Ohio State is. How bad Ohio State is. I mean, it is. What is there to say? What is there to say? This team is absolutely atrocious. 2 special team scores. A 99-yard kickoff return, and then a kick, and then a punt return. I have Brown fans, and I just feel bad for them. I feel bad for you Brown fans. I really do. You gotta blow it up. It's gotta be blown up from start to finish. From the ticket guy in the ticket window all the way up to Andrew Berry. It has to be blown up. It has to be taken down. And it has to be eliminated. Gut it from start to finish. I just can't believe how bad this team is. And then at the end of the game, you have an opportunity to get the football back. With being down 27-20, the Jets had the football. All you have to do is not jump off sides. And they jump off sides. It's like watching the Raymer Ram football team. The elementary school team who could probably beat the Cleveland Browns. It's just embarrassing to watch this team week after week, and it doesn't get easier for the Browns. The slate is just against them the rest of the season. Baltimore this week. In Vegas. San Francisco. Tennessee. Well, they could win that one. But in Chicago against the Bears. And then home to play the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be over at halftime. But the way that the Bills have been playing lately, home to the Steelers, road against the Bengals. One win out of that. I had a guy, my friend BJ, who is my best friend's cousin, said to me after the win against the Dolphins that there's an opportunity that the Browns could get 10 wins. What are you smoking? What are you drinking? 10 wins. 10 wins. 10 wins. Unbelievable. They lose to the Jets 27-20. In the game, it was Dylan Gabriel who started. By the way, team stats first. Browns 6 for 16 on third down. 0 for 1 on fourth down. Browns had 278 yards of total offense, 120 through the air, 158 on the ground. The Jets alone on offense had 169 yards on offense. 42 through the air, 127 on the ground. Browns 10 penalties, 78 yards. The Jets 6 penalties, 61 yards. Unbelievable. The Browns led in time of possession, 34 minutes and 4 seconds. And Dylan Gabriel, 17 for 32, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR rating of 51.8. Fields, 6 for 11, 54 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, QBR rating of 15.8. All right, good. So the Jets, with the win, go now to 2-7. The Browns, with the loss, are now 2-7. So there's the disappointment. Let's get to the happiness. Now let's talk about my Lions. How about them Lions? I'm going to just say this. I thought the Lion game was a complete effort, and I love the fact now that Dan Campbell's calling the offensive plays. I love it. And it was pound, pound, pound right down their throat. They punched them in the face, and they kept pounding them in the face. It was 14-3 at the end of the first quarter. And they went for 2 in the second quarter. Got it. Was up at halftime 25-10. And they just kept pounding. Another touchdown, field goal. And then 3 field goals. 44-22 was the final. Goff, a gem of a game. 25 for 33, 320 yards, 3 TDs, No interceptions. QBR rating of a 94.1. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 142 yards, 2 TDs. David Montgomery, Demo, 15 carries, 71 yards. Jameson Williams, 6 catches, 119 yards, 1 TD. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 catches, 58 yards, 1 TD. Gibbs also had 3 catches for 30 yards, 1 TD in the game. I wish Sam Laporta would have gotten in the end zone because I had money on that. He had 5 catches for 53 yards. Goff, you should have threw it to him. No fumbles. The quarterback for Washington was Marcus Mariota. He was 16 for 22 for 213, 2 touchdowns. Good effort for him. 82.8% quarterback rating. Crosley Merritt, 11 carries, 30 yards. It was Chris Rodriguez, 6 carries, 16 yards, 1 TD. Teron Brooks, 3 catches, 58 yards. Zach Ertz, 4 catches, 54 yards. Deebo Samuel, 4 catches, 29 yards, 1 TD. Ben Stock, 1 catch, 4 yards, 1 TD in the game. The overall team stats for the game, Lions had 30 first downs to Washington's 14. On third down, the Lions were 5 for 10, Washington 2 for 10. Lions were perfect 2 for 2 on fourth down. Washington was a perfect 3 for 3 on fourth down. The Lions had 546 yards of total offense, 320 through the air, 226 on the ground. The Washington Commanders had 288 total yards, 195 through the air, 93 on the ground, 3 penalties, 1 yard. 3 penalties, 1 yard for the Lions. 8 penalties, 61 yards for the Washington Commanders. Lions led in time of possession, and the Lions improved to 6-3. Washington with the loss goes to 3-7. So there's the 2 teams. I'm looking forward. I like what I saw. We got to keep it moving. This week is a huge game, and we'll get to the slate for Week 11 in the National Football League. Let's recap what we saw last week in the National Football League with Week 10. As the Broncos defeat the Raiders on Thursday Night Football only by a low score of 10-7. In Berlin, it takes overtime, and Jonathan Taylor punches it in as the Indianapolis Colts winner 31-25 over the Atlanta Falcons. Houston, a huge win over the Jacksonville Jaguars at the gun, 36-29. The upset, of course, a few upsets in this week's slate. The big one, of course, was Miami. Miami, coming off of the firing of their GM, they come off with a huge win over the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills just did not look like they were the Bills. They lose the game 30-14 to the Miami Dolphins. Patriots, a huge win in Tampa, 28-23. The Bears come from behind after playing terrible football for 52 minutes. They decide that they want to win the football game, and they go ahead and do it. They win 24-20 over the New York Football Giants. The G-Men go down. And Dart goes down with the concussion. And when that happened, and Russell Wilson came in, I thought the Bears had it. And they did. Baltimore, a huge win, 27-19 over the Minnesota Vikings. New Orleans upsets and beats Carolina 17-7, getting New Orleans a huge win. Seattle, a 44-22 win over the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams shellacked the 49ers 42-26. Matthew Stafford is now the 9th player to have over 400 touchdowns in the regular season. You get to Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers beat up on Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers 25-10. Sorry, Jersey Jerry, you lost $10,000 on that one. And then on Monday Night Football, it was a slobber knocker of a game on Monday Night Football, as it was the Philadelphia Eagles heading into Lambeau Field. Now, there was a lot to play for this game, because the Lions will play Philadelphia this week on Sunday Night Football. We'll get to the predictions here in just a second with this game, and we'll preview that game. Philly was in Lambeau to take on Green Bay. Green Bay in first place in the NFC North. Green Bay, with the win, they would have a stronghold on the division. The loss would open it up for the Lions to get first place in the division, because both the Bears and the Lions have the same exact record. However, the Lions have the head-to-head against the Bears, so the Lions would have first place in the North if Green Bay loses. And they lost. The Eagles fly, out of the cheese factory of Green Bay, where all the rednecks go. Lambeau. And it was the Eagles a winner 10-7 over the Green Bay Packers. So with all that in mind, let's take a look at the slate this week in the National Football League for Week 11. In the National Football League. We start Thursday night with the New York Jets 2-7 heading up to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. New England a 12.5-point favorite. Taking New England. The final game, final game of the European League. They go to Madrid, Spain, and they send the two worst teams, the Washington Commanders, who are 3-7, to take on the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-7. 9:30 a.m. kick in Miami, a 2.5-point favorite. I am going to take the Dolphins to beat Washington in that game. Then we get to the Sunday slate. It is the Cincinnati Bengals, 3-6 overall, heading into Asure Field Stadium to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh 5.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Steelers to beat Cincinnati. And the good news out of this situation is that Joe Burrow is back on the practice field. He is now on limited practice. He wants to get back and play this season, and he wants to start coming back for the Thanksgiving game against Baltimore. We'll keep you in touch with that. LA, the Chargers, 7-3 after the huge win over Pittsburgh, will head out to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. 1:00 kick. Chargers 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Chargers in that game. Tampa and Baker Mayfield, 6-3, will travel up to Buffalo, New York to take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Bills 5.5-point favorite. I think they get the win in that one. At the conditions, and it sounds like it could be some snow in the snow belt area. I'm going to take that into Buffalo's consideration for that one. Then you get into some of the other games at 1:00. Of course, the big one in the NFC North is the Chicago Bears travel to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota 3.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to actually take the Bears to beat Minnesota in this game. I think that they can do it. If they want to keep pace with the Lions and keep pace with the Packers, they have to keep winning. And I think the Bears can do it. And Minnesota is lacking right now. I have the Bears beating the Vikings. Houston travels to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Houston 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Texans to beat the Tennessee Titans in that one. Carolina travels to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons 3.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Atlanta to beat Carolina in that game. The final 1:00 slate game sees the Green Bay Packers 5-3-1 going into New York to take on the New York Football Giants, the G-Men, who fired Brian Dable yesterday. Huge firing on that realm. Jackson Dart, we don't know if he's going to be playing. He was with a concussion. So with that in mind, Green Bay 7.5-point favorite. I unfortunately have to take the Packers to beat the G-Men in this game. You get to the 4:00 slate. Seattle is in LA to take on the Rams. Both teams 7-2, 4:05 kick. I'm going to take the Rams at home over the Seahawks. 49ers travel out to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. San Francisco 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to take San Francisco in the game. The two games on CBS, 4:25 kickoffs. We will first start with a huge game. I think Kansas City, Denver is the game of the week. I think this is a huge matchup. Absolutely huge, especially for the AFC West. I think Denver is for real, ladies and gentlemen. I really think the Broncos are for real. 8-2 overall, taking on a Chiefs team that is still trying to figure themselves out. However, the Chiefs coming off of a bye. Kansas City, a 3.5-point favorites. Give me the Broncos to beat Kansas City in the Mile High. getting the Chiefs to 5-5. And then we have the local teams that are in the primetime window. Of course, the Factory of Sadness continues. 4:25 kickoff in Cleveland. As the Browns, 2-7, welcome in Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Baltimore 4-5. The Browns 2-7. Is it no question I'm going to take Baltimore to beat Cleveland. And that sets up the Sunday night matchup. It's a huge Sunday night game. I am looking forward to this one, of course, as the Detroit Lions travel to play the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in Lincoln Financial Field. Philadelphia, a 2.5-point favorite. The Eagles 7-2. The Lions 6-3. 8:20 kickoff with Tirico and Collinsworth. Carrie Underwood with the song, of course. Tap it at the sideline. You really think I was not going to bet and pick the Lions? After what we witnessed yesterday on Monday night with Green Bay, give me the Lions to beat Philadelphia. What sets up Monday Night Football, of course, as it is the Dallas Cowboys. Howdy, y'all! Taking on the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas for Monday Night Football. Dallas a 3.5-point favorite. Dallas 3-5-1. The Raiders are 2-7. Dallas a 3.5-point favorite. Give me the Cowboys in that slate. So again, to recap, New England for Thursday night, Miami in the Madrid game. The Sunday slate will also have Pittsburgh, the Chargers, Buffalo, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, Green Bay in the 1 o'clock slate. The 4 o'clock slate will feature, for me, I have the Rams, 49ers, the Denver Broncos, and the Baltimore Ravens. Sunday night football, I have the Detroit Lions. Monday night, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Do what you want with the picks. And remember, our picks are and our lines are presented by ESPN Bet, which will be Score Bet coming December 1st. We'll give you more details on that. Gambling problem, please visit gamblingproblem.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER for help and information. So there is all the NFL slate for you tonight right here on All Andy Alfred, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the program tonight. And let's talk some hockey really quickly. Let's talk about the Jackets. Oh my goodness. Where do I begin? This Western Canadian slide, and that's what I'm calling it, the Western Canadian slide. The possibility of us getting points out of this whole trip, it doesn't happen. We lose in the Isle on Sunday. I come on the air with you Tuesday on the 4th. We talk that this is a big road trip for Columbus. You needed to start this road trip on a winning note. They don't get it done. They lose in Calgary 5-1. You get to Saturday, and this is the big one for me, ladies and gentlemen. This is the big one, okay? This is the big one. I'm following the game most of the night because I'm watching the Notre Dame game, okay? I'm sitting there watching this game. As it's unfolding. On my phone, Columbus up big in this game. 2-2. They were up 3-2. And they lose the game 4-3. being outshooting Vancouver in the game 32-24. And yet they lose this game. Marchenko with 2 goals in this game. The number 2 star of the game. But Drew Connors, yet again, breaking it open. And Brock Besser, yet again, breaking it open. Put the dagger in there at the 14-15 mark of the third period. Columbus out shooting Vancouver 32-24 in the game. They let them in the faceoff dot 60% to 40%. And yet again, we lose. 0 points on the Western Canadian trip. We get to last night. Now, I'm following this game along, of course. Monday Night Football, Monday Night Raw, and I've got the hockey game. I've got all 3 of them, rotating between all 3 of them. Following along with most of this game. I'm following along with this game. Columbus is up 4-2. 4-2 in this game. 8 minutes and change to go. I'm saying to myself, all right, this one's probably done. We're going to get some points out of this. We're going to get 2 points, walk away, and go to Seattle tomorrow night with something to play for. The possible 8 points, we could get 4 out of 8. I'll be fine. I'll be fine with 4 out of 8 of how pathetic we performed. And then it happened. Connor McDavid yet again kills Columbus in Edmonton again. 4-3. And then the dagger. As Jake Bowman, short-handed goal. Short-handed. Beats Greaves. It's 4-4. And immediately after that happened, and I saw it went 4-4, I went on my ESPN app, and I put it in multi-view. Davidson on the call with Mearsy. I love it when they do that. I love it when those two are together, especially when Jody has to do the national television games. I love it when they calls those games. You could just hear it in Davidson's voice. You can hear him say, "Oh man," as that went in. You could just tell the Jackets were drained. And then again, the former Jacket, Jack Roslovic. You don't know Jack. We know Jack very well in Columbus. And we know him now. As he puts it in 56 seconds into the overtime period, capping the comeback for the Oilers, down 2 to win 5-4. Edmonton out shooting Columbus 24-22. Columbus on the faceoff dot 27 for 53. Edmonton 26 for 53 for 49. Like I said, Greaves was in the game. Did very well. 19-24 save percentage was 7.92. For Edmonton in the game, it was Skinner, 18-22, 8.818 save percentage. And the Jackets get a point, but it's not the extra point that we needed. And we fall 5-4. So tonight, 10 o'clock drop. It's going to be starting here in about a half hour. In Seattle to take on the Kraken. Then they come back to Nationwide for a 3-game slate against 3 teams that are hitting strides. Edmonton again. the Rangers on Saturday, Montreal on Monday, and then Winnipeg on Tuesday before we go to Toronto. And then the 22nd, next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday in Detroit for the Red Wing game. We will be there in attendance for that game. We will be in there in attendance for that game. 22nd. Circle it. Then they're home on the road to Washington, home the day before Thanksgiving against Toronto, the day after Thanksgiving against Pittsburgh. Other games happening in the NHL tonight, of course, you have going into the third period. Right now, St. Louis is up 3-2 on Calgary. Minnesota up 1-0 on the Sharks after 40 minutes of play. Colorado up 1-0 on the Anaheim Ducks. That game on TNT and True TV. You also have games happening later tonight. Winnipeg is in Vancouver. And like I said, Columbus is taking on Seattle. Late finals as we are on the air. Toronto was a winner tonight over the Boston Bruins. They beat the Bruins beat the Leafs 5-3. LA a 5-1 win over Montreal. Dallas in overtime beats the Ottawa Senators 3-2. You also had Washington a winner 4-1 over the Carolina Hurricanes. Looking at the standings continuing into this play, Columbus with the losses are now 7-1 with 15 points. They have played 15 games this season. They're ninth in the wild card race right now. If you look at the division-wise, Columbus is in last place. Because the top three teams are the New Jersey Devils at 11-4-1 with 23 points, Carolina 11-5-0 with 22 points, and Pittsburgh with 9-5-3 with 21 points. Who Columbus is playing tonight? Seattle is 7-4-4 with 18 points. They have played 15 games, so both teams will play 16 games. And remember, we make this judgment call at the 20-25 point, so we'll see what this looks like. But right now, the team everybody's talking about right now, besides New Jersey, Colorado 10-1-5 with 25 points right now. Unbelievable. And the Ducks 11-3-1. Who would have thought Anaheim was going to be this good this year? But it's early. It is extremely early. I mean, we're a full month into the season, and we're making headway. Making headway on that. So we'll see what happens. Got to get into this really quickly too, before we continue on. Let's hit the pond. Let's talk a little walleye. Of course, big moves today by the Fish. Some big names being moved, and I was absolutely shocked by some of these moves that the walleye made today. I want to pull it up really quickly. Here it is. Not Jackets. But the walleye made some big moves today in trading some big name players that have been really, 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 really helpful for them this last year. They have traded Pilon and Russell to Rapid City today in exchange for future considerations. Pilon was claimed off of waivers from Fort Wayne prior to the 23-24 season. He has skated in 4 games this season at a -1 with 2 penalty minutes. But with the Fish this year, over his 95-game plan, he has tallied 12 points with 5 goals, 7 assists, 86 penalty minutes, but he is a -12. Russell, so far in 4 games, he has 2 assists, and that's a +1. He has tendered 8 points with 2 goals and 6 assists and 6 penalty minutes so far, and that was a trade made today, and I couldn't believe that trade that happened. To see that happen and not even have for future considerations is pretty big. Could it be that both those guys wanted to change the scenery? I can understand that, but to have it happen after this series, the series that they just had, was a kind of a shock in my opinion. Kind of a shock, and it really is like I just couldn't believe it. So recapping, by the way, Fish so far. Let me pull it up really quickly. I have my laptop open tonight. Yeah, I have it open tonight. Let's see here. So far, Hawkins is leading it with 9 points. He's got 4 goals, 5 assists. Moyle, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Hillman, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Hillebrand, 4 goals, no assists, 4 points so far this season for him. Brosio, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. Tanner Kelly, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in that realm. Let me try to pull it up for you. So, of course, the home opener last Saturday, they win against Indy 2-1 in the game. On the home opener, they went to Kalamazoo, losing Kalamazoo 5-4. And if you saw any of that game, one of those goals should not even counted. So, give you that much. On that realm. But they did come back and get the win on Saturday night for the home and home against Kalamazoo with a 5-2 victory on that realm. Sunday, they played Iowa, and Iowa beats the Walleye by the score of 2-1. Now, the Fish are on the ice tomorrow morning. Now, this series, this is going to be a big one tomorrow morning. There's only 200 tickets left. Of course, it's a school day celebration, so a lot of them are going to be kids that are going to be at the Huntington Center for this game. But if there was tickets left, which is they say 200 is left, I'm going to tell you this. You should go if you're not going. Tomorrow, Toledo will play Cincinnati, 10:35 puck drop. It is the return of Cole Frazier back to the Huntington Center yet again against the Fish. This week's series are huge. Tomorrow morning, 10:35 puck drop against Cincinnati. They'll go to Cincinnati on Friday night. They will come back to the Huntington Center. Saturday night, less than 1,000 tickets left. So get them now, 419-725-WALL, ToledoWalleye.com, or go down to the Huntington Center box office. Get the ticket for Saturday night. Huge night. Of course, it's basketball, youth basketball, but that doesn't matter. They play the Fort Wayne Comets. Jalen Smerrick's return to the Huntington Center. Remember what he said, and remember what he did with this team, and what he's done for this team, and basically saying that he was retiring, and then basically says, I'm not retiring, I'm going to go play with Fort Wayne. Get your tickets for that. Then they will play Cincinnati on Tuesday the 18th. That'll be a day game in Cincinnati. Then it's two home games with the Wichita Thunder on the 21st and 22nd. And then they're in Cincinnati the day before Thanksgiving, 7:30 puck drop. Day off. They welcome in the Wheeling Nailers on the 28th, 7:15 puck drop. And then they're in Indianapolis the 29th to take on the Fuel. And then they're in Fort Wayne on the 30th to take on the Comets on the 30th, December 3rd. Another morning game, they'll take on the Bloomington Bison. And again, December 6th, another game against the Fort Wayne Comets. But Saturday's game, the first game against Fort Wayne, we will see if Jalen will play that game. We'll keep in touch with that on our Twitter and our Facebook accounts. But again, huge game for that. Huge, absolutely huge for that. Going into this weekend's play, Fort Wayne 7-2-0-0 with 14 points. With Iowa's win against Toledo, they're 5-5-1-0 with 11 points. Indy is 4-4-1-0 with 9 points. Bloomington 3-3-1-2 with 9 points. For Toledo, 7 games only played. They are the second team that's only played the least amount of games. 4-3-0-0 with 8 points. Cincinnati is 4-3-0-0 as well with 8 points. And Kalamazoo has played 8 games, 3-5-0-0 with 6 points. Top team in the league right now is the Atlanta Gladiators. They played 9 games. They're 8-1-0-0 with 16 points so far this season. And Rapid City, with the 2 players that they're going to acquisition from Toledo, they're 4-5-1-0 with 9 points. So we'll see where that's all going to shake out. Again, we had no games in the coast tonight. A slew of day games tomorrow. Besides Toledo and Cincinnati, Florida is in Greenville. Kansas City is in Wichita, and the night game will have Rapid City in Indianapolis to take on the Fuel. And then Thursday, Orlando is in Jacksonville. Lake Tahoe travels to Greenville to take on the Gargoyles. Wish we could get the Gargoyles to come to Toledo. Or I'm looking forward to Lake Tahoe coming soon. So is Savannah. Like to see them come. Make it happen. Make it happen. So there's that. And I can't, like I said, can't make a judgment call on the Fish with it being so early in the season. So there is all of that for you guys tonight as you're watching and listening to All Andy Alfred right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you for tuning in. Real quick note, I wanted to talk a little pro wrestling. Of course, last night, the final Raw for John Cena in Boston. And Cena beats Dominic Mysterio to win the Intercontinental Championship, and now he is a Grand Slam champion. So congratulations to John with that. But remember, The Miz did it not once but twice. So we'll say that. But we do know the War Games situation. It looks like it's going to be Logan Paul, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed for right now versus Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk. We still need 2 more players on each side of the ball to see what's going to shake out. But then you have the women's side. You have Nia Jax, Lash Legend, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. And there'll be a 5th member too, with Rhea Ripley, who's now returned, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and Io Sky. There's your 4 there. There'll be a 5th right there, too. So the question is, who's the 5th on each side? We'll figure that out as well, too. We also know that next week, Monday Night Raw is in New York City at Madison Square Garden. We will also find out this Friday who LA Knight's opponent is going to be. I have a feeling it's going to be Joe Henry, because how Nick Aldis talked about it on the show. If I was like, I know this person and I know this name, but I won't say it. It's got to be Joe Henry. Got to be Joe Henry. So we'll see how that shakes out. And if it is Joe Henry, I think Joe Henry's going to win it out. I think he's going to beat LA Knight. I really do. I really do see that happening. And then you have Solo Sikoa next week on Monday Night Raw wrestling an opponent that we don't know. And now a lot of people are coming out saying it's Edge or Chris Jericho or somebody else. And remember, Edge / Adam Cope is contractually eligible through AEW. Jericho is a free agent. Hell, Matt Cardona could wrestle in that tournament. He's got history with Cena. So there's that. So that pro wrestling wise, that's going to be interesting. Of course, they're coming to Detroit for the holiday show. I like to see that. I like to see that happening again. That was a fun time. Absolutely fun time. So, So there's your pro wrestling talk tonight. And it's now time for Andy Rants, of course. We're coming to the end of this government shutdown, thank goodness, this whole situation. But, I'm one of those people that don't like to talk politics on this show. But I do want to talk a little bit of politics tonight. And I'm not going to talk about the government shutdown. I'm not going to talk about our good president, President Trump, and the Democrats and Republicans. I'm going to talk about the local elections. And the fact that the city of Toledo has elected a mayor for the third term in Wade Capsicavage. Wade has won the re-election. Won it pretty handily. I will say that. But for me, the thing is this. I thought Roberto Torres did a good job changing things up. I know that Harold Harris, made a surprise. It was less than 1 or 2%. But, Torres, for me, I didn't like the fact that Wade basically is going to use eminent domain to close South Toledo Golf Club and Heather Downs Country Club to put low and middle income housing in these golf courses, where these golf courses are at. And when it comes to that, if he does do this, like he was talking about in the Rotary Club breakfast that he did, and he's on camera and it's on reporting, and I will link it on here, what he said. If that's the case, that he does do that, there will be no more golf courses in the city of Toledo that are privately funded. The golf courses that are left will be Detweiler, Collins Park, and Ottawa Park. And who owns those golf courses? The city of Toledo. That's right. The money would go into the city fund for operations of those golf courses. He's trying to get money back into the city by using eminent domain on those 2 golf courses. So now, if you want to play golf, you're going to have to go out to Sylvania. You'll have to go out to Oregon, out to Perrysburg, out to Rossford, out to Bedford in Michigan, up to Cherrywood, up to Lambertville, any of the other cities to play golf on a good golf course. Heather Downs is a good golf course. South Toledo is a great golf course. We don't need low-income housing in the city of Toledo. We have so many houses and so many vacant properties in the city that need to be cleaned up, that need to be redone. We don't need low-income apartment housing on a golf course. It's about as bad as what a former mayor used to say, that we would send all the deaf people out to the airport. I don't like the fact that he did this. He's going to do this. If he does do this. I mean, he always does what his word is. So there's that one. Number 2. The fact that City Council wants to stay the course. Doesn't want to change things up. Bring in a Blair Johnson. And it being a Democratic stronghold. I did vote for George Sarantu. I like George. I voted for Ed. I voted for Blair Johnson. I voted for a lot of change. Because I'm sick and tired of listening to Nick Comines talk. I'm tired of listening to all these other people talk, and there's no action. I wanted a change in government, in city government. Something that I can see out my window instead of waiting and watching C-SPAN. I want to see it happening in front of me. And I'm on record saying it, plain and simple. I'm not a fan of Nick Comines. I don't agree with a lot of his policies. I don't agree with a lot of his choices in what he wants to do for the city of Toledo, especially the corridor coming into downtown Toledo. He's on the action committee to revitalize downtown Toledo and tear down where I work at. So I don't agree with him. I don't agree with him on that much. I like George Sorrento. I think that Tom Wadnowski should be a city councilman. Plain and simple. And that bum should not be in. But again, the city of Toledo and their politics, that's where it's happening. If you're going to do politics, the national scene, they blow it way out of proportion. Stick with local and state. And we're getting up next year to the state gubernatorial race. And I'm looking forward to this race. I think Ramaswamy is very good. I had doubts at the beginning. I like Dave Yost. And if Dave Yost and the Vic come together and become the ticket for the Republican Party, I think they're going to win. I like Amy Acton. I liked her when she was doing the COVID things. I just don't think she's ready for the governorship. Tim Ryan is thinking about throwing his name in the ring. I don't see that happening. But if Yost and Ramaswamy come together and become the one ticket for the Republican Party, I think the Republicans can easily win that. You get into the Senate race, of course. John Husted, the former lieutenant governor, going to be up for a re-election. I think he can win. I think Bernie Moreno is going to win again. Statewide, I look at it statewide and I look at it local are the top two. And of course the Senate and the House. And then you get into the House races. You got a slew of candidates going up against Marcy Kaptur. And from one person to another, I'm going to say this. I think Marcy's going to be ending. I think her run's going to be ending. She was so close to losing the last time. I think she's going to lose this time. Especially now with how the map has been drawn for the state of Ohio. Which gives more towards the Republican side. If I was her and I saw that writing on the wall, I would be one of those like the other senators and just decide to retire. I would. But knowing her, she goes and fights. Even though she screwed over us with NAFTA, she's helped out senior citizens. But the thing is, she doesn't even know who my sister is. Yeah, I said that. Haven't gotten a name on the calendar forever. And I met Marcy back in the day. We're family. I'm like a second distant cousin kind of a thing to it. I met her at a funeral. I figured when she was talking to me about having young people, a young person come and intern with her and everything like that. I thought she was talking about me. She gives me a business card to see if any of my friends would be interested. Get it? That's why I don't like talking politics. But that's my Andy Reigns tonight. Now, again, we will not have a podcast next Tuesday. We will be back on the air Wednesday to recap the final home game at Dwight Perry Stadium for Bowling Green and Akron. Again, to recap, my NFL picks for Week 11, I have New England beating the Jets, Miami over Washington, Pittsburgh over Cincinnati, the Chargers over the Jaguars, Buffalo over Tampa, Chicago over Minnesota, Houston over Tennessee, Atlanta over Carolina, Green Bay over the G-Men, the Rams over Seattle, San Francisco over Arizona, Denver to beat Kansas City. I have Baltimore over the Browns, the Lions over the Eagles, and Dallas over the Raiders. Enjoy your football this week. Enjoy the sports this week. Stay warm, stay comfortable. I'll be working on my leaves, and we're putting up the Christmas decorations here at the house. So that's all the time I have for you tonight right here on All Andy Alfred. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Until I talk to you next week, this is Andy Alfred saying I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. Game of life. Keep your stick on the ice. And to the teams you root for at home, and to my teams, go Jackets, beat the Kraken tonight. Go Walleye. Go Tigers. Go Guardians. Go Reds. Go Hens. Go Falcons. How about that hockey team? Getting ready for a big weekend series. Go Falcons on the football side. Beat Akron. And more birdies and less bogeys, because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great night, everybody, and a great week. I will talk to you guys next week for another edition of All Andy Alfred. I love you, babe. Talk to you guys then.